Hi everyone, thanks for coming back for part 2. Another thing that I wanted to mention as a possibility for the Revelation 12 sign is the sign that took place last year on the Feast of Trumpets, which was on October 4th last year. And as you can see at that time, the sun was in Virgo and the moon was by her feet. And Venus had just come out of the womb. Venus was previously inside the womb of Virgo. And prior to that, on August 27th, there was a conjunction between Venus and Jupiter right by Virgo's head, right by the star Zavijava, which means beautiful Lord, has the word Yahweh in it. Okay, you can see it right here when I zoom in. You have the star Zavijava, which is HIP 57757, so it looks like the Hebrew year 5777 with the number 5 right in the middle of it, which is the number that represents grace. And I've talked about the other star on the other side of Virgo's head, but I'll show you that later. But this conjunction over here, which was referred to as the Bethlehem star, right now they look spread apart, but when you zoom it back out, they're all joined together. And this occurred on August 27th last year. Okay, and as you can see, the sun was in the constellation Leo at that time, and this occurred right under the constellation Coma Berenices, which I believe represents the capstone. And the height of the pyramid is 5776, and this was in year 2016 when this Bethlehem star occurred. And prior to that, you had another conjunction, I believe, in the constellation Leo with Venus and Regulus. So this was like a very eventful year in terms of signs in the heavens. And like I said earlier, on October 4th, you had what appeared to be the Revelation 12 sign at that time. And that brings me to another really amazing confirmation, and this one is from Naya R. She's saying here, "Hi sis, two things stand out about the 27th. A sister, her channel is Aspen S, had a dream where the Revelation 12 sign happened earlier than September. Also, Leland Jones, you can look him up under his name, his videos on Esther's 1 year of preparation, which he states ended on August 27th. Esther is symbolic of the wise virgins." And I'll put these links in the description box, but what got my attention with the first one was all the sevens that were coming up in the URL code, which I saw as confirmation for this one over here, where she's talking about a dream that she had of the Revelation 12 sign and how it happened much sooner than what she was expecting. But it turned out to be a really spectacular sign that was much more than just the signs in the heavens that we see now. But I think this could be a confirmation that the sign might occur before people are expecting on September 23rd. And then another really amazing confirmation was this one over here by Leland Jones. And it's really amazing how he's come up with a lot of the same things that I've come up with, but he's come up with them in a much more advanced, intricate way. For example, over here he's talking about the blood moon pattern and how it seems to form 7 years, which is exactly the same thing that I noticed too regarding the pattern, but he's applied this to the Enoch calendar and all sorts of other things, and it's done really detailed work to come up with this 7-year timeline, which ends with this year. And the other thing that he's come up with is that he's saying here that Esther's year of preparation ends on August 27th, and that's something else that I've talked about as well, that there seems to be a parallel between the book of Revelation and the book of Esther. And I actually noticed that just mainly based on the verse numbers. I noticed that there seemed to be a parallel, but he's come up with this parallel in a much more intricate way. So I thought that was another really amazing confirmation. Okay, so it could be that the bride has had a year to prepare, and this is a table that I did last year on the word October, and as you can see I spelled it phonetically with the R in front of the E because I tried it with the normal spelling and it didn't come up that way, and so I just thought I would try it this way, and sure enough it came up. And the other terms that I put in are Christ, rapture, man-child, born, Leo, and lion, and all of these came up. But what's really amazing about this table is that it came up exactly where it talks about the birth of the man-child and the Revelation 12 sign in the New Testament. Aside from Revelation 12, this is another place where it talks about it. And in fact, if you just put in the word October and nothing else, it pulls up just this one scripture right here, which pretty much says it all. And as you can see, it comes up in verse 27, which if you've watched my other videos, you'll understand why the number 27 is important. But it comes up where it says, "For it is written, Rejoice, thou barren that bearest not, break forth and cry, thou that travailest not, for more are the children of the desolate than of her that hath a husband." And I had explained last year that the word Zion means desolate, so this is a direct parallel to Isaiah 66. Okay, and I'll just read that again. You see that here in verses 7 and 8. It says, "Before she travailed, she brought forth, before her pain came, she was delivered of a man-child. Who hath heard such a thing? Who hath seen such things? Shall the earth be made to bring forth in a day, in one day? Or shall a nation be born at once? For as soon as Zion travailed, she brought forth her children." So it's telling us here who the woman is in the Revelation 12 sign. It's Mount Zion, and if you look at the word Zion, you see that it means parched place or desolate, and it's also another name for Jerusalem, especially in the prophetic books. Okay, and so when you read this matrix, you see that it's talking about New Jerusalem as well. It says, "But the Jerusalem that is above is free, which is our mother." So the mother is New Jerusalem, which is Mount Zion. She's the one that gives birth to the man-child. But New Jerusalem is also the bride. You can see that in Revelation 21. So New Jerusalem is the mother as well as the bride. So the birth and the marriage all take place at the same time, and the woman continues to give birth from that point on, because it goes on to say, "For it is written, Rejoice, thou barren that bearest not, break forth and cry, thou that travailest not, for more are the children of the desolate than of her that hath a husband." Okay, so Mount Zion represents the bride, and it also represents the mother, but it also represents God. Okay, if you go to Romans 11:26 to 11:27, you see that it says, "And so all Israel shall be saved, for it is written, There shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob. For this is my covenant unto them, when I shall take away their sins." And I've talked about before how the number 27, among other things, seems to represent the covenant. You see it very often comes up in verse 27 or verse 17. And I've shown how Mount Horeb, which represents the covenant that was made in Sinai, it also represents Jesus, is Strong's number 2722, but it comes from another variation of the same word, which is 2717, and you see there's 17 times that it's used in the Old Testament, and Strong's 2717 means to be waste or to make desolate, which is the same thing that Zion means. And so you see the numbers 27 and 17 are the Strong's number for the word that the word Horeb comes from, which is this. This is Mount Horeb over here, which is a representation of Jesus. And so Jesus is represented by the numbers 27 and 17. And so that's why in verse 5777 it says, "You neglected the rock," which is Jesus, "who begot you, and forgot the God who gave you birth." So that's why God can give birth to the man-child, because God is Mount Zion and the bride is Mount Zion, because once the mountain cleaves, the two become one, just as it says in John 17. And you can see that here in verse 21, where Jesus said that they all may be one, as thou, Father, art in me and I in thee, that they also may be one in us, and that the world may believe that thou hast sent me. Okay, and then you had the head of the corner coming up in Luke 20:17, which seems to represent the year that this will take place, and also in 1 Peter 2:7, which is number 27 once again, which seems to be code for the year 2017. And so I was thinking about the fact that Jesus is the head of the corner, and the temple is represented by the pyramid, which represents New Jerusalem. And so if the woman represents Mount Zion, which is New Jerusalem, then that means that the head would represent Jesus. And so that would explain why you have a star in Virgo's head called Zavijava, which means beautiful Lord, which is this one here, which is I was going to say Strong's number, but it's HIP number 57757, which is like the Hebrew year 5777. And then you had the other star in her head on the other side, which was HIP 5779. Okay, so you can see that right there, and so that would be the Hebrew year 5777, and then 9 is the number for judgment on the other side of her head. And so that reminded me of the scripture where it said that Jesus is the head of the body, the head of the church, and you see that here in Colossians 1:18. And at first I was a little disappointed because it was coming up in verse 18, but I'll talk about verse 17 in a minute. But you see that it was Strong's number 2776, and the estimated height of the pyramid with the capstone is 5776, so this seems to match up with that. But then I looked at verse 17, and it said, "He is before all things, and by him all things consist." And so I noticed the word consist is actually a form of the word stand. So when you look that word up, you see that it means to stand with or band together. So that reminded me of the 144,000, which again is represented by the temple or the pyramid. And so he is before the 144,000, standing with him, and he is the head. So again, that takes you to verse 17, where Jesus is the head, and then the body would be the church. But again, it's coming up in verse 17. Okay, so I have some more I wanted to talk about concerning the number 27. I also have some tables that I wanted to share and talk about, but I'm running out of time, so I'll have to do that in the next video. So thanks for watching, and God bless you.